Hello ladies and gentlemen. So in the last class we were focused on solving equations with two steps, and today we're going to focus on solving inequalities. So what I want to let you guys know is that we're doing the same exact thing here. The only thing that's going to be different is that instead of having an equal to sign, we're going to have one of these inequalities. It's going to be either greater than or equal to, which looks like this, less than or equal to. Also, greater than or equal to is considered the minimum, and less than or equal to is considered the maximum. Okay, so we're not going to really do much with this vocab except for just say it and name them. But in the next section, when we talk about creating equations and inequalities, we are going to need to know these definitions. So, like I said, it's the same thing. The only thing is going to be the inequalities. So let's just try a whole bunch of examples. Make sure to pay attention to the last couple, because I noticed that a lot of you are struggling with the fractions. So make sure you pay attention to these. Okay? So, of course, the first thing I need to do, I want to try to isolate a, which is my variable. So I have to do that last. You have to understand that anything attached to the variable will have to happen last. So I'm going to minus 28. And then minus 28 in order to try to get this to equal to 0. So when that happens, I have 4a is going to be greater than 200 minus 28, which is going to be 172. So then we divide by 4 here, and then we divide by 4. So then a is going to be greater than, not equal to, greater than 43. Make sure to write that a there to go ahead and define it. And let me just make this a little bit thicker. Okay, 5 is good. Alright, excellent. So now, let's go ahead and do the same thing. We cannot do anything with the a until it's by itself. So let's go ahead and make this positive 25 turn to 0. We subtract 25, and then we subtract 25. So now, this is gone. We'll have 4a is going to be less than or equal to 50. And then lastly, this is saying to multiply, so we have to do the inverse operation, which is to divide and divide. So now a is going to be less than or equal to 12.5. So this will be your answer. Okay, so as you can see, it's the same as solving for equations. The only thing that's different is that we're just keeping this inequality right here. So of course I can't get to the 32n unless it's by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 120 and subtract 120. 32n is going to be less than or equal to 600. Right. Now that we have that, we're going to just go ahead and divide by 32 and divide by 32. So that gets n all by itself. So now n is less than or equal to 18.75 when you go ahead and divide it out. Okay. Once again, I can't do anything here until this 10c is by itself. I need to get the variable by itself. So let's subtract 7, subtract 7. What that does is that it makes this equal to 0. Remember, we want those 0 pairs. So 10c is less than 93. So I'm just going to divide by 10 and divide by 10. And of course, as you guys are noticing, I'm not always going to have whole numbers. Okay, we will not always have whole numbers. So 93 divided by 10 is going to be equal to 9.3. So c has to be less than 9.3. Alright, let's move on to the next thing. The n is here, so I'm identifying this and know that I have to do that last. So to make this equal to a 0, let me just go ahead and change this actually. I'm going to just go ahead and make this a 2. Alright, so let's just go ahead and make that a 2. So let's minus 2 and minus 2. So we have 0.75n is going to be less than or equal to 3. And of course, right here we divide by 0.75. 0.75 multiplied by what number will give me a number that's less than or equal to 3. So we have to divide in order to get that. So 0.75. So n is going to be less than 3 divided by 0.75 is going to give me an answer of 4. Okay, so n has to be less than 4. It could be 3, it could be 2, it could be 1, it could be 0. Doesn't matter as long as it's less than 4. Okay, now for these fractions, once again our variable is here, so we have to do that last. So I'm going to go ahead and add 4 here and then add 4 here. So I have h over 3 is going to be greater than or equal to 15. Okay, now this is showing division. It is a fraction. So I need to do the opposite of division, which is going to be to multiply. So I'm going to multiply this by its reciprocal. Keep in mind, this is just saying 1/3 of h. So I need to multiply by its reciprocal, which is 3 over 1. Okay? So in this case, I'm not going to put the 1. I'm just going to multiply by 3. So multiply by 3. H is greater than or equal to 45. Okay? And that's all there really is to it. Let's try 2 more examples, especially those fractions. I know you guys are the most confused by fractions, so let's try a couple more. Once again, I cannot get to this until it's by itself. So let me just add 3 here, and then let me just add 3, perform that inverse operation to get to 0. So we have 2/3 of x is greater than or equal to 12. Alright? Now, this is showing multiplication. Remember, we need to do the inverse operation, which is to divide. In order to divide a fraction, we need to multiply by its reciprocal. Okay? Multiply by its reciprocal. So let me just go ahead and put this here so I can cross cancel. So x is all by itself now. 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 12 6 times, so 6 times 3 is going to be 18. Alright, so x has to be greater than or equal to 18. It could be 19, 20, 21, 22. It can be 18. Alright, now for our next one. We're going to try to get this all by itself. This is a positive 6, so let's go ahead and minus 6 and minus 6 on each side. So we have p over 6 is going to be less than or equal to 2 minus 6 is going to be negative 4. Alright, and once again, this is the same thing as saying 1/6 of p. So in order to multiply this, we have to divide, which is to multiply by its reciprocal. So 6 over 1. Okay? So I'm going to just multiply this by 6 and multiply this by 6. So p is going to be less than or equal to negative 24. Alright? And that's our answers. So keep in mind, we cannot do anything to the variable until it's by itself. As long as you remember that, this process will be easier for you.